I hope my mic is on. Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're in the right order.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that. I think, especially when the GCCs are growing in the value chain, we keep talking about innovation as the new engine for the long-term success, right? And today, the whole conversation is going to be about how do we make the best out of the innovation investments that we do, what are the strategies, how do we engage with academia and the ecosystem. Essentially maximizing the return on investment, and more importantly, how do you define success for innovation and beyond the patents and prototypes, right? Because that's the primary thing. So today we're really looking at the final outcome to be actionable insights and intelligence from my esteemed panel, and some really good inputs and framework that you all can take back and implement in your organizations. With that, let me get to my questions. So my first question is to you, Professor P.J. How are organizations partnering and co-creating with academia and solving business problems? Because I know, from what I understand, you're working with a number of organizations. And more importantly, how are you achieving this sustainable, resilient growth across the value chain and not in terms of bits and pockets? So the audience would love to know how you're helping and partnering.
Yeah. Thanks, Lalitha, and thanks for this invitation to the panel. Yes, I think IIIT Hyderabad is hardly 5 kilometers from here, and we are a strong player in the research in IT and whatever, computer science, hardware, software, and application area. So all the GCCs that have been set up, we have been working with many of them over the last several years, engaging with them for many of the research problems that they want solved. I think GCCs are, these setups have been there for many years, and they all aspire to be at the higher value chain. That's a given these days. So working with academia is one way to get skills that they usually don't have, or address problems that are not easy to address. So we've been working with all kinds of GCCs, say Lloyds Bank, HSBC, JP Morgan, and the many, many banks like that. Also companies like Novartis, Qualcomm, and Bosch, Nissan, all kinds of automotive, in technology, in banking, pharma, as well as, of course, we worked a lot with Google, Microsoft, Adobe, kind of the traditional IT companies. And some of the projects that we do, I just want to, so there was with one of the GCC, one of the projects that we did was using NLP on social media to see when they introduce a new drug, they want to see what is the buzz, how is the market taking it, how are the people talking about it. So this was almost 10 years ago, 8, 9 years ago. When you look at the data and what the sentiment and the things are being talked about, and give feedback, very real time or near real time feedback to the pharma companies on how they're. This is one of the problems. And I myself worked with, I think, a company called Honeywell, a big company. They had a, I think, see, they also ship a lot of things themselves. They're like a company with a lot of outgo of things, and they wanted to see if there is and they ship 1,000 packages, packing them right into a truck, and is a big problem. Knowing the size, if you don't pack it wrongly, you will put 25% less boxes in the same truck. It's a very simple problem or easy problem. So what they want to do is, if they take a mobile phone camera, take a couple of pictures, can you judge the dimensions, and then you can have a back-end algorithm to fix them rightly. This problem we worked on. Of course, these things happened. I don't think they ever went anywhere. We had very nice proof of concept system for, with a mobile camera, you could get the size approximately right. But there's many more steps back end for them to implement it on their supply chain. In fact, one of the challenges, they have their own camera. It's not a standard iPhone or camera that they use on the field. So I mean, there are many such things. I think we are very eager, and IIIT as an institution has very flexible IP and other policies by which people who can come with that can actually take it up and own it and implement it in their system. So that's very important, because academia sometimes tend to be very rigid in these matters. IIIT is one where we are an institution which doesn't get any funding from any government. We have to raise everything ourselves, which means we have to have very innovative models. So we work with many of these companies and we're open to such things.
Yeah, what I hear you say is, as from an academia perspective, you can give a kickstart and a boost and show a direction, but it also depends on organizations and how they can take it and more institutionalize, the research is what I hear you say.
Yes.
Nitin, I'll come to you because he also mentioned that he worked with Qualcomm, and you're going to be my patent guru now, now that I know. I hear that you have a lot of patents filed from here. So my question is in terms of, you're in an interesting space, you're also a product company, work with other GCCs, but you're also GCC, in some ways or the other, you're a GCC yourself, where you're. So how do you think, in the Indian ecosystem, GCCs like us who use your products and you as a product companies, Indian arm can come together and co-create and co-innovate kind of a thing. That's my first part of the question. But also, how you using the academia startup ecosystem is something I would love to know.
All right. First of all, very honored to be here with the brightest mind and the sharpest mind of the country here. So I'll try my best to justify being here. I think there are a couple of parts to the question. So allow me for just go over each of them.
You have 3 minutes.
So I think first part, let's look at the GCC and the parent company aspect, right? And I think very happy to share that Qualcomm Hyderabad has been pioneer in innovation space. We have filed a lot of patents and continue to innovate here in many ways. So how does that happen, right? And I think I would borrow the information that Lalit mentioned in the morning, and I cannot agree with him more, which is 100% alignment of GCC with the parent organization, right? The strategy, the company strategy, the goals, the challenges, everything has to be known to the junior most engineer of the company in India as well as in San Diego. It should be the same. And I think Lalit highlighted that, so I'll not go more. But what I'll add here is, I think the key onus lies on the leaders of the GCC to enable that culture. So when Qualcomm started, a lot of people who came in and settled actually had worked at the headquarters. They know how company works, what's the DNA. I think we talked about company's DNA in the morning sessions. That has to be brought in here. They should hire the leaders who actually then imbibe that DNA and then build the culture, right? Now, once you have all this set up, how do you go ahead and innovate? And I think that's where I would typically rely on the concept of 𝗟𝗬𝗃𝗃 Brahma Vishnu Mahesh. I'm not talking about getting up and doing prayer every morning. If you do that, that has different benefits. But what I'm talking about is looking at the 3 realms of innovation. What is innovation? Why do we need to innovate? I think we all know that we have to stay relevant as a professional, as an organization of any size. And how do you stay relevant is, one, how do you maximize the value of what you're doing today? If I am selling a product, how do I maximize that? So how do I continue to generate maximum value? Because that's my bread and butter. That's where the dollars come in. And yet I prepare myself for the future, right? And all of us know, this is pretty common sense. We all know that this has to be done. I prepare for future and I maximize what I do today. But the key challenge is, how do I do both at the same time? And I think that's where the key challenge lies. We know that, I need to learn AI because it's the future, everybody's talking about it, but I have my deliverables to do, I have my product deliverables and day-to-day tasks. How do I do that? And to complicate the matters, we have prejudices, biases, old habits that prevent us from taking that leap from what we are doing today to future. And that's where all the 3 realms, which is the creation, which is you prepare for future, you preserve, which is the realm of preservation, Vishnu, how do you maximize it? and then the role of Shiva. How do you destroy these practices to allow you to leap from today to future, right? That has to be done in a very balanced way. It's a detailed topic I think we can talk about later, but to show that how this has really worked well for us in Hyderabad, I think I just wanted to highlight one aspect wherein being here in India, we have delivered a lot of value for the parent organization, especially, for example, in the space of multi-SIM technology, right? There were the days when if you tell somebody in US that, hey, you need to have a phone which can support 2 SIMs with the same software stack, and then they would go crazy and say, who the hell in the world needs that? So that's the barrier I'm talking about. So you need to pray to Lord Shiva, how do you break that barrier? How do you do that innovative destruction? The innovation is not just about creation, it's also about destruction. So from there to a point wherein this whole technology has now become the integral part of the 6G standard, it's a long journey. And on this journey, we have created a lot of patents, innovations, and creation, preservation. And this has been done while we serve the global markets with the single SIM things, right? So that's the example. So that's first part. Like how do you go work with your headquarters within the boundaries that Lalit mentioned in the morning, that you can't go revolt against your headquarters and all that, right? You still need to work in a cohesive manner and still deliver the value for your parent. The second aspect of the innovation through ecosystem, and I would like to share our experience on what has worked well. I think in order to innovate with the ecosystem, I think the first thing that we need to really understand is what the ecosystem needs, right? And then what is our strength here that can support that need. To give an example, I'll share a few things that we did. When 2016, when the government started Make in India program, right? As you all know, Qualcomm does not produce anything, right? We just design our chips and products and all that, right? So we cannot we don't have factories here, but we still wanted to participate and Make in India thing. So our approach had been to see how we can develop the product system in India, right? So we came out with this Qualcomm Design India program, wherein in few years, I can proudly say that we have 500 plus startups, which basically worked on very innovative products. We kind of helped them with the technology access, with the ecosystem access, enable with the connections, et cetera, and all that. And I would proudly say that out of those 500 startups, we have 100 plus or 200 plus startups which has filed 750 patents in it. And I can say 4% of all the patents filed by the startups in India are from startups which are part of our program. Likewise, we felt that there is a need for semiconductor ecosystem here. So we came out with Qualcomm Semiconductor Mentorship Program, in which we select the startups which are creating innovative products in the semiconductor space. Remember, the startups really need the support of ecosystem or the scale support in terms of business connections, market access, et cetera, which is what we can provide. Likewise, we had another program called QWIN, which is Women Entrepreneurship, and we try to pick startups which has women entrepreneurs and try to support them in terms of the unique requirements that they have to scale up, et cetera. Coming to academia, I think we also have few programs with academia wherein we have Qualcomm Fellowship Program, wherein we have funded more than 100 plus research programs in which we pick up the research areas which align with our work areas and have supported that. We have also partnered with Government of India in terms of 5G use cases labs. We initially committed 5, but now we are supporting 26 institutes with respect to 5G ecosystem, mentorship, training, and in various angles, right? And last but not the least, we had a MOU signed with Government of India with respect to promoting intellectual property and concepts around IP strategy and all that. And I can proudly say we have a platform which was built in collaboration with NLU Delhi, CPAM, DPIIT, which is called L2 Pro India, which now has about 16,000 plus students who have gone through it, certificates by NLU and all that. Now, through this way, I think we are trying to see how we can create that technology, product development ecosystem, and research ecosystem, which can definitely help us also in turn. Lastly, in all of these, we do not take any stakes in terms of patents or IP creation in it. So we can talk about it later, but
Absolutely.
This is how we try to use ecosystem.
So I hear you say contextualization of the innovation especially with the parent organization, is equally important because
Yeah.
not
what
always.
the market needs and what is our strength, how we can tie them together.
Got it. Perfect. Kavi, I'll come to you. So you come from a startup yourself before you joined T-Hub, and now you are helping with many organizations. So if I can really look at it, what has been, you have exposure to many organizations trying to go through their open innovation journey. So in terms of what kind of challenges organizations face, because that's the things that the audience would like to avoid in their journey. So what would be your advice in terms, what do you see with working across organizations trying to adopt innovation?
Yeah, I'll try to contextualize it to being here with GCCs.
Yes.
Thank you for the question. I'm still zoning out of that spiritual example that Nitin gave. I got totally hooked onto that. But look, I think, first of all, let's take a step back. What is the first point where GCCs begin? It's a building, right? And arguably, in the next couple of years, in Hyderabad, we will probably have the highest concentration of Fortune 1000 companies, potentially, right, in the next couple of years, which is great. But we also forget that T-Hub is the largest home or building for startups in the world. It's right here in Hyderabad, very few steps away from you, like the way PJ and Sir also talked about IIIT. I think if you think about where is innovation happening today in the context of AI, innovation is a very broad word. It's like talking to the universe. But because we're talking about AI here today, if you really think about where that innovation is happening, it's at three places. It's either in academia, and we have PJ and Sir here. It's either happening, it's in large companies which have a mandate to build towards that, the Metas, Googles, Facebooks, Qualcomms of the world. Or it is founders who are building and experimenting and who are going out there. So to your question of innovation, how have we seen it in different companies? I think for large companies, especially GCCs, where there's a parent company sitting and there's a massive responsibility here of creating value, creating, controlling costs, as well as delivering, new services to the rest of the world. I think it would be a pity if GCCs do not tap into the innovations that startups are doing, right?
Yes,
especially at an extremely high volume.
That's what we're trying to encourage today.
And I think that's really important. We have seen, at least my experience at OYO and what I'm seeing from the vantage point that is T-Hub. And even if you look at other companies that we work with Qualcomm, we work with all the companies that actually even PJ and Sir mentioned. And T-Hub
including us.
Including JLR. I've seen three things work really well, right? The first is that startups are understood or misunderstood to be small organizations solving small problems. But startups are technically a culture, it's a way of life. Right? So I'll give you an example. We did this with, PJ and Sir also mentioned HSBC. So we did this with HSBC this last Sunday. HSBC's problem statement was that they want to hire the brightest and youngest people who have a startup mindset for their internships. Startups do hackathons, so do corporates, right?
Absolutely.
So we launched a hackathon for HSBC on Sunday. We launched it a couple of weeks ago. 13,500 students applied.
Wow.
We shortlisted about 100, 200. 120 showed up on a Sunday. We went through a 12-hour hackathon. HSBC, I think, wanted to hire about 20. They finally rolled out 46 internships. This is all happening in a single day.
Yeah.
So I think we have to first step away from, startup is a small product, it's a small company, we don't know what they're doing, what their idea prototype is, to say, hey, startups have a different way of solving problems. Can I solve my problems with startups? And T-Hub is very happy to, sort of champion that. The second thing we have seen work, and we were talking about this, Lalitha, earlier, is that a lot of companies go through a long process of picking 2 startups to work with, and then they come back and they say, it didn't work. And that's just not how startups work. If you look at VCs, they talk to hundreds of companies in a year.
Exactly.
And then they pick 3, right? And because they talk to them, they engage with them. And I think that's what corporates have to do. You have to take a bet. So pick a problem that you don't have the time to solve today as a GCC. Yes. Pick a problem that you haven't been able to solve for many years, and give it a fresh look with a couple of startups. And you'll make about 10 or 12 bets. I would reckon 9 will fail. And maybe 1 or 2 will really take you to the stars.
Absolutely.
That's the second thing that I've seen working. And the third is just very simply, I think there has to be just constant engagement with companies and startups. This could be through events. This could be just places like this. This could be through communities. And I think our minds just open up and people discover that there is this entire frontier of startups that we haven't, sort of tapped into. And I think this is a forum and again an opportunity, given the massive GCC wave that we are fortunate to see here in Hyderabad. There is a massive global AI wave that's happening. And as, one of the largest incubators in the world and the largest sort of home for that, we are very, very happy to be here and to sort of champion that.
Absolutely. I will actually pick up on what you said and go to Ram in terms of, because he said GCC is an office to start with, right? That's what he mentioned. And real estate is considered to be a more of largely traditional conservative mindset. But now the GCCs which are coming up, the concept of office is significantly changing, right? We're not only talking about our traditional delivery part of it, but we are talking about co-creation, we're talking about innovation. So from wearing a real estate lens, how are you looking at helping your clients and organizations to be ready for that innovation? How are you reimagining office space?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I see most people have disappeared, maybe for their evening coffee, but we'll have a good discussion. I think what you really need to look at India holistically and the wave that we've seen in the last 3 decades, where it all started, right? Historically, you saw companies come into India and say, yes, it's more an outsourcing model. Let's figure it out. Let's start small. The scale has dramatically improved. And if you look at the real estate ecosystem, I mean, this micro market didn't exist 25 years ago. Everything was near Begumpet. Maximum you would go to Banjara Hills. This has evolved. So it's a partnership of what the industry sees with the government, the comprehensive development plans of city. And if you compare a city like Hyderabad to, say, London, a very matured market, London's built around a transit-oriented hub. You pretty much can get a tube to go to any part of London, and pretty much everything around the transit-oriented hub has developed as pockets of growth. So everyone comes into work and goes back home. Similarly with New York. India has evolved. Of course, you got to keep up with the pace of infrastructure.
Yeah.
And it's a touchy topic, and I don't want to get into it.
We
but
don't want to talk about traffic.
But what we've seen growth in India, we came off a historical high of 81 million square feet of gross absorption last year. This year, in the first half of the year, 40 million square feet of gross absorption. That's the growth we are seeing in India, right? And Hyderabad's up there. But I think the evolution, what developers historically also built, was product that was okay. The clients who are the users of space have driven that change of what is being developed today. A park like this, Mindspace, which is one of the earlier parks that actually got developed, has come a long way. Today we're seeing developers dismantle older buildings to redevelop them.
Lovely.
To look at technology on the way they're building that structure. Nobody cared about natural light or your aircon quality or air quality within your space. That's all changing today. Today there are enough platforms that manage buildings. Today the way you construct buildings.
All about AI.
It's just AI and also IoT on the way you manage your buildings.
Yeah.
Today we are talking of sustainability.
Yes.
Historically, if you look at it, you were talking of 30, 40, 50 square feet per person. Today we're going up, depending on the kind of business, but anywhere between 90 to 150, 200, depending on the organization, what you're really delivering out of that space. And the bigger part is one, transport. India, we're always solving for day before yesterday's problem. We haven't gone and created a green city and said, yes, the city works, infrastructure is there, transit is in place, let's go move there. Some of the other countries have done it, but it's taken a while. I think we're in that journey. We're playing catch up.
Yeah.
And a lot of states today are competing today, and
Absolutely.
that catch up will continue to happen.
Thank you.
But when you look at from a space perspective today, the most important thing for an occupier of the user of the space, they're catering to different generations of people to use the space. Today, we're just not talking of a glass, nice-looking building. Today, we're talking about amenities within the environment. That ecosystem for them to do something beyond work, maybe come in early, grab a cup of coffee or a breakfast in the park or that ecosystem, have lunch with their colleagues. Also, it's not what necessarily is in the building, but what's in that ecosystem.
Got it.
And that's what's driving the change.
Perfect. Thank you. And Nitin, one very short answer from you. How do we, we are talking about the climate of open innovation and global collaboration. But there's, especially when we talk about innovation, there is always this thin line between
how do you protect your core IP while enabling the external ecosystem? So how do you as Qualcomm strike a right balance between these two? We're really running out of time, so 1 minute answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I'll be really short. I think one of the things that IP helps us, and I think which is contrary to the popular belief, is that it's a great collaboration tool, right? So the way we look at IP is that, hey, you know, it gives us a clear boundary on what value proposition we are bringing in, what the other partner is bringing in, right? And I think that has helped us a lot in creating great partnerships, right? Let me pick up a few examples. There are many, but there are a lot of companies in which startups or companies that we work with or partner with, has this element built in. I will name two companies, one Indian, one international, which has, right from initial stage, we had the partnership and investment, and then which has become big now. The first one is Xiaomi, right? It's a Qualcomm venture company in the long time back. That's how the technology has been shared. Each one of them has brought in their own, you know, it's not just the licensing of the patent, right? It's basically a partnership. And I don't look at patent licensing as just, you know, hey, this is my patent, you give me the money. No, that's not that. That's a basic tenet of the relationship. But what you build on top of it is the whole ecosystem, support, relation, you know, whole journey together. And that has helped us really well on that. The second example is MapMyIndia. It's an Indian company which we invested a long time back, which recently went public and all, right? So these examples clearly show that if you have a clarity on relation in terms of what is that you are bringing in, what's the other party is bringing in, it really culminates in the great thing. And I think that philosophy has helped us a lot, and we have 300 plus licensees in the world on 5G, right from smallest entity to the biggest entity, right? So that's my answer. And just to touch upon open source, I think there are a lot of open source is nothing but another form of an IP license arrangement. And each one is very different, so a generic answer would be that you work through these arrangements and say, okay, if that's the proposition or framework you have to work in, then you should bring in this value proposition and the other party will bring in, and how you pay back the use of the thing. So,
Kavi, because you work with both organizations and startups, especially as GCCs, when we are trying to engage with these startups, what are the 2-3 things we need to look at the startup in terms of determining their health of the organization? And what are that 1 or 2 success criteria that you would suggest that we keep it as a forefront working with startups?
No, this is a fantastic question, Lalitha. I think I'll keep it short. One, meet as many startups as you can. Watch them pitch, watch them give demos. I don't know if you guys met today, but there were 3 or 4 pitches that happened in today's session. There was Vexa.ai, there was Deccan, there was Beacon, fantastic companies. The more you meet, the more you will train your LLM to understand the kind of startups that...
I like that analogy.
Yeah, what kind of startups that matter to you. It's like interviewing people. And you will realize what matters to you, what not. The second is founders, and I don't know, founders won't like me saying this, there must be some of them here, but founders do well because they have tunnel vision. And we get this feedback often from actually companies like yourself that we work with.
Yes.
They have tunnel vision, they're focused, razor focused, target fixated on one problem and then go crazy. And they forget the practical applications of the periphery that surrounds what they're trying to build. And this is where corporates have to come in and then work with them to realize what that periphery looks like and start building out. So when you meet founders and when you listen to companies, they might be telling you this is only applicable for automotive design of powertrains, is what they might be telling JLR. But their approach to doing that might also apply to aerodynamics, right? And to many other things in the amazing car that is a Range Rover. But it's your job to identify that. And if you see founders respond to that, jump in, right? Those are the 2 things I've seen works really well.
Got it. And I'll come to you. Innovation it's a culture, it's a mindset that needs to be built. What kind of, in building that kind of mindset from a academia perspective, are you working with organizations? Are you working with GCCs in building that mindset, not just in collaboration on innovation?
Yes. So academic institutions are like watering holes, and different animals in the jungle will get different things out of it. So the earlier I talked about how we equip them with research, co-creation of things that they can take forward, etc. But another important aspect is, of course, skilling. And when we are a institution like IIIT, where we stay in the forefront of all the technologies, we also have the potential to give that to the employees or mid to senior management within the organization. We do many of these. We run executive education programs in a very successful one. We have been running in AI/ML for the last 8 years now. About 6,000, 7,000 people have gone through that. I did one on blockchain, and an interesting one we started is on software engineering for data science, like AI software engineering. This before, of course, all these co-pilots came. Before co-pilots and all came. Yeah. And then we also have we recently launched a sponsored master's program, MS by research programs, a thesis-based master's, where there is limited amount of coursework, and the degree is awarded based on the thesis. And we would like a lot of the employees, this is currently aimed at a little senior level, not senior level, mid-level onward, not freshers, and they can come there, take the courses, and do the thesis which can align with what they would do back in their organization, have a co-guide, and get that all done. So we have about 25 students joined in the first batch last year, and we open it up. And another very open line we have is what we call PGSSP, Postgraduate Student Status Program. This is an opportunity for anyone in Hyderabad, just to walk into the campus, register for a course in the semester, come and attend the course and go through the entire course.
I hope many from the audience will see that. I have many questions, but unfortunately we are up on time. I have taken many things in terms of contextualization of innovation to, how do you see the tunnel vision but build the peripheries, and to your point in terms of how do you recreate the working space. So thank you so much.
I just have one mantra for GCCs looking at India. Your location is your attractor, very important. Your building or your park where you operate out of is your enabler. And your workplace that you create within your space is your retainer.
I think with that we will close. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.